Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bate Escape. I am so excited for today's podcast podcast episode because I have two amazing humans that I have the pleasure of getting to know over the past couple of months. Both of them classmates in my sex coach certification training at the moment. So I want to introduce everyone to Mackenzie and Jess. Welcome to the Bate Escape.
Hey,
Hello.
here.
Before we get started, you can find both of them on Instagram. You can find Mackenzie at her handle Sex Talk with Kenz, and you can also find Jess at her handle Madredemiel. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I should have chosen
Very nice.
a name, but it was chosen so long ago.
I like that name, but I feel like both of your names are so fitting for both your Instagrams because you're so different vibes.
We are, yeah.
But both equally amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, she's very gracious and flowy and just beautiful. And yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I feel like you're the same also, but like totally different aesthetic.
Yeah, I feel like
Very
Mackenzie's very like down to earth, like just very like relaxed and casual, warm, like yeah, like I
thanks.
Well, I've had such an awesome time getting to know the both of you. Like I said earlier, we're both in sex coach certification at the moment, and it's so funny how you decide to do something with your life and it just connects you with like cool energy and like cool people. And we also have like another group of people that we interact with there too, so it's so nice to be able to like talk off of that and talk about things that interest us like sex.
It really is, because I don't have people like my friends, like we don't have similar, things that we love like that. Like I love having you guys to talk about, sex, intimacy, relationships, because that's what I love to talk about. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you both are so smart on your socials too. Like the way you talk about female empowerment, Mackenzie, on your social, it's so fun and like refreshing because I've never seen that like perspective from like someone that was socially raised as female. I'm just like, oh, this is so brand new to me, but it's so genuine.
yeah.
And then Jess's, on the other hand, like I feel like hers is like really mystical and like sensual and like so harmonious.
Oh, thank you.
She's like a piece of art. She's like a piece of art.
Yeah, even now,
That's what I think.
like your whole background, you have the flowers and the guitar, there's this beautiful lighting.
I know, I totally got in the mood for this because I was doing like laundry and I'm like, if we're gonna talk about masturbation, like I kind of want to be in that like energy, like when I masturbate, like so
Yeah.
I needed
Yeah,
a little bit of a like wardrobe change, get in the mood.
I like it. It's so much fun. I know I have my insets going right now. I'm just like, oh, I need to vibe out, put on some lavender and kind of chill out. But yeah, so this podcast primarily is like male dominated. I talk a lot about male things, and I thought it'd be really cool and refreshing to bring like a female perspective. And it's safe to say that you both identify as women, correct? Like that's
Yes.
okay. Cool. I'm learning a lot, and I feel like I want to be more inclusive in my life. So I'm starting to call like groups of people like folks and humans. So I'm not like superimposing like these genders or sexual orientations on people.
Yeah, on my Instagram, I always call my boyfriend partner. I say my partner. That way it normalizes that word partner, because that's what a lot of people use.
Yeah, totally. And I also too think it takes a lot of practice. Like I think people are hard on themselves, and I'm like, listen, we're living in a new world. It's going to take some time to get accustomed to this. Don't feel bad if you like slip up. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
And just, being more inclusive is so much more fun, I think. So masturbation. So I emailed you both a couple of questions and things to noodle over. It's funny, when I first came out as solosexual, a lot of people were like, what the fuck is that? And even I couldn't define it. Like I couldn't define it for myself and I couldn't define it for others. And I think like it took like a couple of years on this like masturbation journey and to be like, oh, that really resonates with me. And I'm curious to know, when I came out to you all, like what was your, like what did you think solo sexuality was?
Good question. You introduced me to the term, that's for sure. I had not heard about it before. And I I mean, in general, I've never felt like I can call myself an expert on anything. Maybe it's because I don't understand the word expert, but to me, I feel like I'm constantly learning. So, and I feel like that's the way it's always going to be when it comes to sex, because sex is so unique and special to each person. So, that said, I have been in the sex education space since 2016. So it's been some time, you know, that I've like received training and that I've like learned about like so many other varieties of sex that like I may not personally be interested in. Maybe I will be one day, but that so far hasn't been part of my experience. So it was really cool to, you know, feel like, oh, I'm always constantly learning. So you were my introduction to the term solo sexuality. And I think I kind of surmised what it might have been, you know, so I don't think I was very far off, but I felt like I needed your full like introduction because I didn't want to make any assumptions.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and
Well,
I was the same way. I don't think I've ever heard the term solo sexual, and when I met you and you shared that with us, I was like, "Oh my God, that is so cool." I didn't even think that that was an option or that was a sexuality. So then after you told me, I did my own research. And I was like, "That is so cool." And yeah, so I didn't know about it either.
I'm always so like not hesitant, but I'm always so curious to like share that information because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like so many times masturbation just gets a bad rap. And I've talked to a lot of different people and they're just like, yeah, masturbation is like just like this hobby, this like thing to do. And I'm just like, no, it's like a lifestyle.
Mm.
But it's hard to communicate that because I just, unless you really experience like these life-changing um thing through masturbation, it's hard to convey the powers that it can really like hold.
Totally. I
Yeah.
feel like the way that I've heard a few of your episodes and the way that you talk about masturbation is so poetic. Like,
Oh, thanks.
like, but I really resonate with it because even though I wouldn't say that I consider myself a solo sexual, I definitely, I mean, from what I've learned so far, um, to me, it's a very powerful like practice. And I would never, you know, when I'm having sex with someone else, like I feel like I'm fulfilling another need. Like I don't think it could replace it. Like I do enjoy having sex with another person, but I know that I would always make time for masturbation because the way that you describe it as like this powerful, like self-love practice is exactly what it is for me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think more people need to understand how important masturbation is. Like, it's not just about like getting off real quick, or it can be, but it doesn't have to be. Like, masturbation is so much more. Like, you can masturbate and not have an orgasm. It's like about self love and a deeper connection with yourself. And I think, like me, I just recently started to masturbate more meaningfully and mindfully. I think it had to do with our training, but
Yeah.
I just kinda did it to get off, but I think it's super important for everyone to know it's not shameful, that that's how you discover what you love and your pleasures, especially when you do go in and you have partnered sex. Like, that's how you know what you like.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as I like talk about it being like this beautiful experience, I think one of the things um that doesn't get talked too much is kind of like this idea that you have to kind of release these like archaic ideas of what you thought your life would be, like your sexual experience. Like it's like oftentimes you're in a very alone space because it's like a very solo activity. And I think it's super important to be able to process what that means to you as an individual. Like you're going to be in this solo space for a really long time and you have to kind of come to terms with who you are. It's a very cathartic experience, I think,
Yeah.
because you're just constantly just like with yourself and you're just like, oh, like let me find these new ways to get me off, because you're with all types of sex. The goal is to try to keep it sexy and like change
Yeah.
it up, and all you have is yourself. So how do you do that? It's like it's an adventure for sure.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's changed over the years too, you know, because I think like probably we all started doing it at different ages, but it is super
Mhm.
normal, you know, to start at a really young age. And so that was totally my case, but I definitely don't masturbate in the same way. Like as I've grown, as I've had different experiences, as I've maybe come across something that I find like, oh, that's a new turn on or something like that, I start to incorporate it into, you know, my masturbation practice. And that's why when I recently did a podcast episode, I really connected with how masturbation is an art practice, in the sense that artists, you know, of all kinds, musicians, you know, painters, anything, they will take inspiration from the world, right? Like go on a walk, maybe it's like a flower, maybe it's like a conversation that had whatever. And I feel that that's kind of what it is. Like we are exposed to the world and we develop different turn-ons, right? So like the thing that turns me on might not be the same thing that turns the two of you on, but you know, regardless, it's all valid. But we get to then incorporate that when we're by ourselves to turn us on psychologically and then maybe also physically, and get to have this really creative practice that results in a lot of pleasure and maybe even a climax and an orgasm, right? So to me, it's like masturbation is completely art, like there's no question. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I don't know. I'm getting lost even just thinking about it. I just wanted to name that. I just wanted to say that. I don't know why. The spirit of masturbation just like went through me. I don't know.
And it's funny that you say it changes so much. And I just have to tell you guys this, because when you said, you know, how much it changes, like when you first start and like whatever age you're starting, I remember, I know this is one of the points you wanted to point on, so I'm gonna share it now. Um, I remember starting to masturbate because I realized that it felt good, like over my clothes, like never touched my vulva bare with my hands, just didn't. I don't know why. And I remember I started masturbating with, like, stuffed animals. I would take a stuffed animal over top of my clothes, yeah,
No way.
and rub it until I had an orgasm. Like, it would be very quick, it wouldn't be like it would be hurry up before, like, anyone comes in the room, like, because 'cause you're young and you live with your family, and so
Yeah.
that's how it started, and then I was like, "Well, this is like bull crap. Like this doesn't like I can't do this forever." And I remember going into I don't even know what age I was. Then I started to actually touch it bare, and then I was like, "Oh, I could stick things up there." And I was like, "What can I stick up there?" And I never wanted to use my fingers. So like, "What can I stick up there that's like a good size that won't hurt me, won't like infect me or anything?" I would use makeup brushes, the ends of my makeup brushes.
Oh my god.
Interesting. Wow.
I'd clean them off with alcohol, make sure they were clean, and I would use makeup brushes. And then obviously when
Resourceful.
I got yeah,
Yeah.
when I got older, I realized, oh, I can buy a sex toy. So now it's like, you know, whatever. But it's kind of funny and interesting how as you get older you learn more. And now I realize you could take all that together and also like make it a deeper connection, like touch everything. It's not just your genitals, like touch your body, touch your chest, and just like a sensual touch, you know, and
Oh
just
my
make it a
god.
whole experience.
That's so important too. And I think a lot of men don't do that because it's just like a not, I think, and I'm using quotation marks here, it's not a manly thing to do, where it's just like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't even touch my body. I just want to touch my dick all the time. That's all that fucking
Yeah,
matters.
yeah.
Um, so the thing that I get asked a lot is just like, oh, you talk about having these really powerful orgasms and this beautiful masturbation session. Like, what do you do? And I'm just like, bro, it's all immersive. Like, I don't even like touch my dick. Like that's like probably the last thing that I do. Like I'm feeling my nipples, like everything about my body I've learned to get as a turn on. And that's taking years of practice though. So I think that a combination of like practicing for a really long time, and I say practice because for me it's like a daily meditation. And
Mhm.
if you want to get better at something, you got to do it all the time, right? It makes
I
sense to me.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm always encouraging men to like be more sensual with your bodies, like it. And sometimes too, like I'll take in like a lot of feminine energy because I'll like dance for myself and I'll put on like underwear for myself. It's like this turn on game for me. And it took a lot of unlearning this like hyper masculinity that I've always been instilled in. It's just like this like this like constant narrative that I would tell myself because it's all you learned as a young boy. Yeah, but I remember like masturbating really young all the time. Like I was masturbating in my bedroom. Like I got walked in by my brother. I've been walked in by my dad a couple of times. In the showers, like before homeroom, all the time.
Oh wow.
That's really funny. I don't think I've ever been caught that I know of. Like, I feel like maybe once, like, you know, someone might have tried to come in and know what's going on and just like let me live without the embarrassment or something. But like, I've never been caught, which is nice.
If I ever been caught, oh my God, my soul would leave my body. I don't think I have. I think I was so good at keeping it a secret. Like I did it at the right time. Like I knew my parents were in the other room at the very other end of the house. Like, or I would do it like before a shower on the floor because no one would come in if I'm about to shower. So I would just do it then because I'm like, no one's coming in. And I would
That's
lay on the
true.
bathroom floor and get it on.
That's so funny. I never did it in the shower. For me it was like a nighttime thing, like right before bed,
In
like
bed.
going to sleep type of thing. But like I kind of like need it. Like I know that like that's just what's gonna happen. Like I get to enjoy that before bed and kind of put myself to sleep that way.
Yeah, early mornings are really good for them too. You know, we guys get morning boners, so you're just like, oh, it's like this thing that's awake. So I'm just like,
I think I get morning boners too.
Do you?
I'm way more aroused in the morning. That's when I like to have sex is the morning or daytime. Like before 4 o'clock, that's my favorite time to have sex. Anything after that, like I do because that's sometimes the only time available. But I like daytime. I don't know why.
Because you like
It's
to
like
see
my
everything.
energy. Huh?
Everything's brighter. You like to see it all.
Okay, maybe I don't know.
It's funny. I wonder if there's like, you know, maybe it's like per person or like there might be like, I don't know, like a hormone thing, but like I do think that there's certain parts of the day where we do feel probably the most aroused, right? And for me, like oddly enough, it's like midday, like, but it's not like necessarily before 4 p.m., but it'll be like 1 or 2 would be perfect. But you know, so when I'm by myself and if I have a flexible schedule, that works. But that would be the ideal time to have sex, but oftentimes it doesn't work with the 9 to 5, or if you have a 9 to 5.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true. But I feel also too like during these times of COVID, I've gotten so much feedback where it's just like, oh, like it's so much more easier to like get in this time. And I'm just like, yeah, this is like a perfect time for you to really
When
discover.
you're home.
Yeah. And then also to like go for it. Like you're not meeting people and you got yourself. So you might as well turn it into a party.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
I mean,
right.
I'm on my bed right now and right in front of me is my full length mirror.
nice.
That's awesome. Oh, so I have a full length mirror too, but it's not like facing my bed. But I think it was like a few weeks ago. I was like, I have a mirror. Why is it over there? Let's move it. And we moved it right in front. Why? So that is I actually have you ever read Untrue by Wednesday Martin?
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Love that book. Um what was I gonna say? Oh, so apparently there was a study and women are actually very turned on by them looking at themselves in the mirror. So when people are having sex in a mirror, it's not because they like necessarily like what's going on with and we're talking heterosexual sex. Not necessarily what's going on with the guy, but they like looking at themselves in the mirror. Like they just think we are just the sexiest thing. And I just think that's cool that that's even that's what's going on. That's why you like looking at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
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 What's your experience with looking at yourself, Jess?
You know, it's something newer. Because I think because for me, like masturbation was always something I did like at nighttime, like when I knew like people are in bed, like lower chances of getting caught and all that stuff. I never like did in front of a mirror with the lights on or anything. And also starting to have sex with like my boyfriend at the time, we had to sneak around too, right? So like I just never really had an experience of like seeing myself. But then I had a boyfriend who asked me like, hey, can you send me nudes? And this was like my early 20s. And I was like, I guess, sure, I'll do it. And I waited a long ass time. Like it'd be a week and then he'd be like, oh, like, so where are those nudes? And I'm like, oh, you want it? Like now? Like, you know, I was so not in the frame of like looking at myself in that way. Like I did think about it when I was with a partner, like, oh, how must I look to them? But because I never like even looked at myself in the mirror or anything like that. It wasn't something that came natural to me. But then once I started doing it for him, he loved it. But I think I started to see like, wow, like I really like looking at myself like this. Like
Yeah.
I look like that when I do that. Like it was so fascinating and really healing for me too, because growing up in a culture that is just so patriarchal and like always criticizing women and like all these pressures of like you can't be too sexy but you can't be a prude, like everyone's writing the rule for me, that I'm like, wow, like I really get to explore and see like how do I want to move when no one's watching, like how do I want to touch myself, how do I want to, like what turns me on. So that's something now that I've done like for many many years and I love it. And yeah, like now the mirror is like totally part of like the sex tool arsenal, but it didn't come natural to me.
Yeah.
And that's so important you say that. And I think as like a gay man, I can relate to that. Being told what your sexiness is. Because when I came out of the closet and I started doing the whole gay scene, if you didn't look like a particular type of gay, like you just weren't accepted. And that was being like very cis, very white, very muscular, very rich, like all these things. And like I am definitely a person of color. I come from a working class family. Like we very much struggled. Um, and I just didn't think that I was sexy. Like I was just like, I don't look like these men who are being salivated after, and like that's all you saw in like in media. Like if there was a gay person on television, I didn't see myself. That was like some white boy, and I was like, and then for a really long time, I just found myself wanting to either, if I couldn't be that, I wanted to be with it. And it took a really long time to unlearn that. And one of the things that helped me was masturbation, because I started looking at myself and validating my own like body image and saying, oh, like my black, thick, curly Latino hair is beautiful, and like my big features are gorgeous, and everything is proportional. And I
Yeah.
just like I was like this really great like eye-opening moment for me, that I could be like, oh, I'm really hot too. And now that we live in like a social media like technology age, like I fucking love watching myself. Like I'll take videos of myself just to keep for myself. Do you all do that too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If
Just like, oh yeah.
if you're talking like nudes, yes, but like I don't just take random videos for myself, but if I'm like naked, like, you
Yeah.
know, taking pictures for yourself, and like I actually did a challenge once where I was taking naked pictures, posed or unposed, not necessarily something that I would want to send to someone, just for myself.
Yeah.
And you take them because sometimes when you take a picture of yourself or you look in the mirror and you think, you might like look at all the you might critique yourself, and then you look back at it a week, a month, however long after, and you're like, oh my gosh, I I'm not even that bad. I'm actually really cute. So I did that, and I was looking back, and I would like hunch over like on purpose. Like they were really cute photos, like, and my belly would be all rolled up. Like I'll have all the rolls, and I looked back at it, I'm like, I'm cute. Like even though I have rolls, like I
Yeah.
love that. And it's
Totally.
just funny how your brain, it like takes a minute, and then when you look back, you're like, wow, I love myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think also too, it's really important is like being a person of color, like when you start seeing beauty in your own community. Look, no, I'm sorry. When you start seeing the beauty in yourself, you start to see the beauty in your community. So
Mm,
now I love Latino men, like I love Middle Eastern men. Like I'm attracted to things that I look like, because I'm starting to believe in myself, like, oh yes, you are like this gorgeous thing. Also too though, like the idea that I know that I'm filming myself like totally gets me off.
Ooh, tell me more
yeah.
about that. Tell me more about it.
Well, because
Why?
it's
Tell me
like,
more, tell me more.
I
Like
see
subscribe.
I see myself in the mirror, and then I blatantly know I have my whatever, my iPhone or whatever, like videoing me, so I can see myself, like I have the camera flipped towards me and I can see myself recording. So I'm like, yeah, you start to perform for the camera, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna, knowing you're gonna watch this back later, you're like, what's gonna get me off the most? So you start doing that, like, oh, like I'm really into feet, so I'm gonna put my feet up in the air and like rub them, and like, you know, you have these
Yeah.
moments with yourself, and then you play it back and you're just like, yeah, that shit's hot.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I
You know,
encourage you, both do it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna like pay more attention to that. But as you said it, it made me think of like what I tend to record. Like I've never once, and it's not because I don't touch my vulva when I'm masturbating, but I've never once even recorded my vulva specifically. Like maybe I have like it'll show because of whatever I'm doing.
Mm,
But this I think goes back to like kind of what Mackenzie was saying, which I did as well, of I never thought about anything going inside, which is very pleasurable for me now. But in the beginning, it really was like the way that I discovered masturbation was literally, this is gonna sound so funny, through a wedgie. Like got a wedgie and so like
that's
pulled.
great.
Honestly, I think that's kinda that doesn't sound far off. I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm also a girl and I understand that, but, like, when you're young and you just feel something,
Yeah.
like, it just is like, "Oh," like
Yeah,
a light bulb.
totally. And it was like, yeah, I just kind of like rubbed the right way. And I'm like, okay. So, and so I never touched it with my bare hands. It was something that I would just like rub my underwear up
Mm,
against, you know? And so it was always something that
that's
I
interesting.
did on the outside. And also like, you know, once I started to get breasts, like, you know, nipple play, like in the rest of my body. And so I think because my masturbation started as something that never directly touched my genitals and was in the dark and involved kind of the rest of my body. When I film myself, like it's kind of like that. Like I'll focus like on my back or I'll focus on like movement. Like it's almost like what turns me on is recording like a sense of aliveness more than like what something specifically looks like. And it reminds me of how physical attraction is more than just visuals, right? Because if we have a blindfold on,
Mm,
which can be super hot, like we're also going to be attracted to certain sensations and also like not attracted to others. So it's like part of masturbation for me too is like it's a beautiful way to, yes, like have a better relationship with your body image, but I think it's also a really good way of detaching from body image, of like not needing to like, if you're struggling with it and you're like, oh, like I can't get to the hump over like not liking something, I'm not ready to like fully love it, you know, that kind of like, okay, like let's put that to the side, but still like how can we love on ourselves without needing to love or like how we look like. And it's not because I
Yeah.
personally don't like what I see, like I do, but I also like to pay attention to other parts of myself that are not just my body image, because I think too as a woman, like this affects every person I know, like how youth obsessed we are,
mm,
you know, and like anti-aging and all that stuff. But I feel that like with men, we see so many more examples of like, you know, really hot men that like, you know, are looking older and handsome. And like, I totally agree. And we
Yeah.
don't see that a lot with women. I think it's changing, but it's harder. And so it's like, right now I feel great about my body image and I want to feel that way as I get older. I don't know, I can't guarantee that, I can't predict it. And so I also want to start like, kind of like what you were saying, Ren, is this is a practice, it takes years of practice. So it's like I want to put in the time now to love my body on a physical level without being attached to like liking what I look like. And that requires
Yeah.
like feeling and like being turned on, I think. Yeah, I can totally rub one out and get an orgasm like without touching anything else. But when you spend the time to really like, it's almost like turning on the lights of the entire house. Like I'm gonna take my
Mhm.
time and like touch my leg and I'm gonna whatever, you know. There's so much more that's actually on. So I'm gonna have a better experience. It's gonna be way more like bigger of a bang if I do that than if I just like focus on one thing, if that makes sense.
amen,
That does.
sister.
Mhm. I feel you.
I totally feel it too. Um, no, that was beautifully said. I feel like I can totally like co-sign everything. And it has, and that's one of the things that I've really tried to. I think now in my practice, I think that's where I'm at, Jess, where I'm just like, okay, like I don't need to always be so cock focused. And there's so many other things that I find pleasurable in my body, like my body hair, for example. But I think for men, I think men in general are much more visual. Like, not only that, but also too, like our sexual organs are external. Like we're able to like, oh
Mhm.
shit, there's a huge boner between my
Yeah.
legs. Let's just play with this thing. Um, and I've had conversations with other people that identify as female, and it's like, well, it's not as so visual for us because all of our we're so much more internal. So it's like
Mhm.
you know, and I remember having a conversation with a friend, and she's like, I'm not digging around in there to like see what's going on in there. Like I'm kind of playing over the surface, and that's more of a turn on. I was just like, oh yeah, it makes total sense. um but I really want to start talking about like masturbation when in regards to like partners. So I know Mackenzie, you currently have a boyfriend, correct?
Yep.
And just you're flying solo, but in your partner days, and the question goes for both of you, like how has masturbation played an important role in your sexual history? And this pertains of like men, like the men that you're having sexual encounters with.
Do you want to go first, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I can go first.
Okay.
Now, when you say, do you mean masturbation alone and then how it plays into the relationship, or do you mean masturbating
Like,
with a partner?
I mean, either masturbating with or masturbating them. Like maybe there's a maybe there's a day where you come home from work and you're like, listen, I'm not fucking doing this. Just take care of yourself. And like you're having this interaction, but ultimately they're responsible for their own pleasure.
Yeah, we do that a lot. So we're both very open with the idea of masturbating in front of each other, masturbating whether it's just one of us because the other one doesn't want to do anything. Like I've
Right.
watched him do it. He's watched me. Like we've done it next to each other, for each other. Like
That's
while
hot.
we're having penetrative sex, like we're very masturbation is a very big part of our like sex life. So um and especially like when we are if we are having penetrative sex, I have to touch my clit, which a lot of women do in order to have an orgasm, but that's, I guess, considered masturbation because I'm touching myself. And whether I'm like touching my boobs or whatever. So yeah, masturbation is huge for us. And then when it comes to like, I guess me giving him a hand job, is that masturbation, I guess?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I guess that is. Yeah, so we do all that, and to me, and I'm sure you guys would agree, that's all sex. Like, you know how everyone has this idea that sex is all penetrative, and that's not true. Anything is sex. Masturbation is sex. It's sex with yourself. So yeah, it plays a huge part in our sex life and our like intimacy. So we're very open about that.
Yeah, it sounds like you love it.
Love it.
That's hot. That sounded so hot. It's like a really hot relationship.
Yeah, like if I don't want to do it or I'm like being lazy or whatever, he'll just do it next to me. And I don't want to make it like uncomfortable and like I guess put the mood down. Like I'll be next to him like watching TV. Like that's kind of unsexy. So sometimes you have to I try to make it as like in the mood for him as he can and like still get off even if I don't feel like it. But yeah, I let him do his thing and like he'll do it right in front of me. So
that's awesome.
Mm.
My experience has been mixed. I think like masturbating each other, like my first boyfriend and we were together 5 years. So I was 17 until 22, and that was the first person that I had sex with. And so and we kind of like slowed our way into penetrative sex. So a lot of our sex was like you know, him masturbating me. Well, I guess that's whatever, like me giving him a hand job and him fingering me and that kind of thing. Not so much like in front of each other where we wouldn't touch. Like I think like that would happen, but eventually like we would just kind of get more involved together. I have had partners that have told me that their partners didn't like it. You know, like they kind of asked me like, hey, like is this something okay? Because like my ex-girlfriend like would get offended or like didn't like it or thought that like something was wrong with her or their relationship. So I guess that's something that like does happen because I have heard that enough times for me to think that. But no, like when someone asks me that, I think it's really hot. Like to me, it's like the idea of someone doing that in front of me and then me kind of denying them, like, no, you can't touch me. Like just keep touching yourself is really hot.
Oh yeah.
Well, like shit, that is hot.
Yeah. But I would say that like even though I do think that's hot, like it doesn't happen that many times. Like I don't know why, like most of my partners like will eventually just get too wrapped up and then like we just end up having sex. But yeah, it's something that I want right now. I think it's a great idea for COVID because it's like a really COVID safe thing to do. And
Mhm.
it's something that like I've wanted to like kind of experiment with during this time, because I'm currently single. And so, but I'm also kind of experimenting with celibacy, which has been like now a year of celibacy, which has been super interesting. But that doesn't, it's like, how do you define celibacy, right? Because I'm still masturbating. So
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask you because a lot of people, they like, to them, or the stories I've heard, celibacy is absolutely none of that. So you still masturbate. It's just not partnered sex.
yeah, yeah. Because I think like for me, the reason why I wanted to take time away from partnered sex was because I like what had been in a space for so long of like being sex positive and just like wanting to be with partners that, as long as we were being safe and consensual, like I had no reason, like moralistically, to say no. And so I was very active and had like a bunch of partners and it was great. But at the same time, I was feeling like not very sexually fulfilled. Like, and that's why I think it's important to talk about it all and talk about how like orgasms are great. Like, don't get me wrong, I love them, but that doesn't equate to like being satisfied sometimes. Like, I can have sex with someone,
Mm-mm.
orgasm, and be like, oh, why do I still feel like something's missing? And so I felt like I kind of want to, because I'm so sexual, I kind of want to remove that just to see what would happen. And it coincided with COVID. Like, I had no idea, like most of us, that we were going to go through a pandemic. And pretty much as soon as I told myself, like, I'm just going to hold off from that and build emotional intimacy with people and see if like that increases my satisfaction and my sexual like experiences, COVID happened. And so it was really because of that that I wanted to not have sex with other people. So masturbation for me always felt like there's no real reason to stop doing it. So
Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. But I want to go back on something that you said when you were talking about partners asking if it was okay because they've had partners who didn't like it or who thought like something was wrong. And I think that's so important because having been in this like solo sexual beta community, I've talked to a lot of straight guys, and I'm talking straight like with female partners who identify as
Mhm.
straight, um, who enjoy masturbating with other men. Whether it's straight men, gay men, bisexual men, it's a very much like it's a very much broy like brotherhood mentality where it's just like I just want to kick it with my boys, and maybe we're watching the football game, maybe our dicks are out, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm curious to know what you all um think about that. Have you ever experienced dating a guy that was into like mutual masturbation with other men, or have you heard of this? What are your thoughts?
I have never ever heard any straight man, excuse me, open to something like that, and I love it. I wish, not that I wish, but if let me go back. If my boyfriend was open to that, I'd be like, "Yes, do your thing. Whatever will make you whatever will help you express the way you need to express and open up, do it." Do I think he would? No. But no, I feel like I've heard that as a joke, honestly, like over like more when I was younger, like where they call it a circle jerk, but they
Yeah,
like joke about it, like, oh, so whatever the joke is, and they say
yeah.
circle jerk. But I never thought it was a real thing. And now that you're saying you spoke to people, that is amazing, and I love that so much. That is the coolest thing.
Oh yeah.
it does sound super cool, and I feel like I always intuited that. Like I remember asking my first boyfriend and even other guy friends like if that happened, only because I mean, I honestly don't know. I don't know if I saw it in a movie or what, like, but something gave me the idea that like that probably happens. And they all denied it. So maybe like that was true for them. But I kind of felt like they had a sense of shame. And
Mm.
so I always kind of wondered like, well, maybe they're being honest or maybe they're just ashamed about it. But yeah, and I've never had another partner bring that up. I think like, yeah, normalizing that that happens, like, and like being okay with it would be really great. Like, I don't know, but I can see why people would hide it, in general.
Yeah.
Like there are very few things that are cultural, that our culture generally okays when it comes to sex. So pretty much anything that falls outside of that is like deemed a little bit like questionable. So
It's true.
And there,
And
I
it
think,
mm,
no, you can go, Ren.
I was gonna say it does happen more often than you think. Well, especially when boys
That's
are younger. Like I remember like being in high school and junior high and like it kind of being like a joke, like, oh, like Johnny jerked off with Ben, huh? Like that's gay or whatever.
wow.
But it it was something that was true. But again, it was so much shame because you're not supposed to play with your dick with other boys. And but it's I think for me, and when I've had conversations with these men, it was really never sexual. It was more out of curiosity. Like, oh, like who has the bigger
Yeah.
dick? And it was like this thing where all the boys would whip it out and be like, oh yeah, like you're hairier than he is. And it was always like a playful, innocent
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And then, as you get older, you either grow out of it or you don't, or it kind of morphs into this other sexual experience. But
Was that your experience, Ren? Did you like have that when you were growing up with other boys?
yeah, I did. I mean, it was never my experience has always been like, oh, like show me yours and I'll show you mine kind of thing.
Mm.
And it was always like this, like you're a young boy and you're kind of not able to have this sex. So like you're kind of just exploring with yourself. And then you're curiously asking your buddy, like, oh dude, like have you ever jerked off? Like how did it feel? And it becomes like this, like, oh yeah, I do it all the time. Like, how do you do it? And it becomes like a sign of mutual respect because like you're both these young boys and you're growing up in this sexual like hypersexual society and you're just like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna bang so and so after I'm done or whatever, and you kind of keep this conversation going. But it always was like sex talk was always so prevalent among boys, and talking about your dick was like no big deal.
Yeah,
Wow.
that makes sense because I feel like people, like kids, teenagers, like you also kind of want to know, right? Like the how to. And like if you don't have that available to you or you're actively being like told that it's wrong or whatever, like who else are you going to talk to? Like it's going to be your friends.
I do remember one time, like being home after school, and I was like a tchotchke kid. No, not a tchotchke, a latchkey kid, where it's like you just go home and your parents are gone for a couple of hours. And I remember like a friend of mine bringing over like one of his dad's pornos, and it was one of those things where you're kind of sitting in bed and you're just like, oh, look at this chick and look at this or whatever, and like you're kind of both like casually touching your dick or whatever, and then like slowly but surely like someone just whips it out, and then like unbeknownst to you, you're just like, oh, that's like it's okay since this person's doing it too, so I'll just do it too. You're not focusing on each other, you're focusing on this porn in front of you, but you're both masturbating together.
Interesting.
So a lot of the times, like straight men that I talk to now, um they get off on that kind of like sexual energy where they're not necessarily bonding with each other, but they're bonding through this masturbation in this shared space.
Yeah, and I feel like that makes sense, like for people that might judge that, or if I can think of like, you know, because we were saying how maybe some of these men, especially straight men that have girlfriends that might judge that. It's like thinking about when you go to like, I don't know, if you go to clubs or if you go to a party or if you go to like a festival or something, if that's your thing, and like the lighting and the music and whatever, like the energy of the people around you, it's kind of like maybe turning you on. Like I feel like you can kind of see how the energy of others, it doesn't mean that you want to get with them, but it's just like that's just the vibe, like that's the environment that you're swimming in, and it's kind of like allowing you to like get in touch with your like sense of aliveness and eroticism, even if you're not going to share it with the people around you, so that's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
I
I
I think
glow.
it's yeah. I think that really sucks how much shame that that a man can carry with that. And I think it comes from like um being gay is like this, in their head is like this thing that they don't want to be seen as. They don't want to be identified as gay. Whereas a girl, like I feel I've never done this growing up, but I hear a lot of girls, they get their first kiss from a girlfriend because they're practicing and that's never shame. That's actually hot, and you get older, you mess around with girls, it's hot. But a guy doing it, they're gay, but in a bad way. Like all these names, these bad names, and they put shame on it. But and it kind of goes in the like anal play, like straight men who like anal play, it doesn't mean you're gay. If you are, then you are, but if you're not, if you say you're not, like that feels good, it's pleasurable, it has nothing to
Yeah.
do with your sexuality. So that really sucks that they can't, do it without shame.
I remember talking to a bro, and he was married with children, and I remember him telling me that he really enjoyed masturbating with his buddy, and they even like exchanged mutual masturbation, so they would jerk each other off. And he would be like, but I'm like as straight as they come, and that doesn't make me gay whatsoever. So like, even, and he told me like, even if I had sex with a dude, I still wouldn't be gay. Like I'd be straight. Like I'd be a straight man having sex with a gay guy. And I think I
I've
really
heard that.
like, I resonated with that, because to me, I'm the same way. Like I identify as being gay, but if I were to have sex with a woman, it wouldn't make me straight. I would be a gay dude having sex with a woman. So
Yeah.
like there's always like there's always this confusion or hesitation and putting labels on who you are as a person. I'm just like, it's just sex. Like you're just
Can we
kind of
just
like,
all fuck? Can we
Yeah.
just all fuck? Who cares? I don't care if you're gay or not. Fuck me.
oh, I fucking
Just
love
do
it.
it.
No, it's true, but I enjoy straight porn. Like I love straight sex. Like I watch so much straight porn, and I really get off on it. But again, I for me in those situations, like yes, I'm being aroused by this other male in my presence, but more than anything, in those situations, if I am jerking off with a straight man, it's turning me on that he's allowing himself to like
Mm.
enjoy this moment. That's what's most arousing, because I'm just
Like
like, oh
the openness of it.
yeah, like
I
I'm just
love
like,
that.
oh, he's totally being a bro right now. Like no inhibitions, just kind of like bonding in this like space together and like really going for it. That's hot.
That
Yeah.
is hot.
I think so too.
I'm turned on thinking about it.
Same, same. Because I'm thinking of like, I feel like now that I'm older and dating people that are also older and like have had more experience, like this is less of an occurrence. But when I was younger and I was dating guys that maybe still had a lot of that like internalized like homophobia or shame, because it is this thing of like when women in general, like women being with other women is tend to be seen as hot, and like men is like being with other men isn't, according to our culture. I always did have boyfriends ask me like, oh, like, have you like ever kissed a girl? Have you ever been with a girl like in this exciting way? And when I would ask them that in that very same way, like, because I think it's just exciting. Like if I think someone's really hot, like I just think them being sexual is hot. So it's like whether that's with me or like with themselves or with other people, like that's why would I find it not hot? And so I would come with that very same curiosity, like, oh, have you ever done anything with a guy before? Very few guys at the time would answer like without being offended. Like
Yeah.
oftentimes they'd be like, how dare you even ask? And I'm like,
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not accusing you of anything. I just like, like we experiment with our sexuality, how we get to know ourselves. Like, sorry for asking. Like, I don't know if that's like something you've noticed too, but
No, it's true. And I don't think that's ever going to change, because I think as long as we continue this narrative of like being seeing gay people as bad, like just it's being gay is like essentially like demasculating who you are as a male. And I'm just like, I don't understand how that even came about. Like, but we live in a culture where we're just raising other men to think the same thing, and it's just like, when will it stop? And I think it comes with, I see the change happening with us. I very much see the change happening with Gen Z.
yeah.
Like all
Mhm.
these new kids coming up, like I see them on social media, and they have, I don't know, man, there's like a sexual awakening happening with them. Like there's so many things going on, and I have a lot of hope that they're going to have like a major change in the way that sexuality is seen, especially among men, straight men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um yeah, that's hot.
Yeah,
It is
it
so
is.
hot.
It is.
Well, it was such a pleasure talking to the both of you. I love having these conversations, and I'm so happy that I met you both during sex coach training. I don't think it would have happened any other way.
Same.
I know, I'm really glad. And like to me, it's like and also like just to collaborate on future projects and like help each other in our practice. And like for me, it's like, you know, you start getting clients and it's like, oh my God, like this person would be like great for Ren, or this person would be great for Mackenzie. Like it's just a
That will
way
be
of
cool.
like continuing this work. Cause I do think it's like so important and so valuable.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree.
All right, I'm gonna do another quick shout out. All right, so thank you to Mackenzie, thank you to Jess. You can find them both on Instagram. Mackenzie, what's your Instagram handle again?
Sex Talk with Kenz.
And Jess, what's yours?
Madredemiel.
Perfect. And then I'm Beastly Bader. You can find me on social media. Just type that in Google somewhere. You'll see some shit. for
Woo, he's so
for
hot.
you both are so hot. Thank you so much for having this conversation about masturbation. It's beautiful. It's important. Everyone should do it.
Go
And
play with yourself right now.
Yes. Thank you so much. So happy to be part of the conversation.
Thank
absolutely.
you.
And bros, I hope you enjoy this, or folks, whoever's listening to this. And I will see you all on the next episode.